So welcome everyone. Welcome to Comely's November 2nd Friday. For today's event, we'll have a conversation with Way Communications. As you may remember, we did an info session about their internship program this summer. And today we're very lucky to have their general manager and senior vice president at the Seattle office, Matt Ashworth, to join us again. So now I will hand it over to Matt. Matt, please.
Thanks, Liao, and welcome everyone. Thanks for taking time to spend with us on a rainy Friday afternoon. Really appreciate it. And for those that don't know, we actually have collaborated on a number of things with the program over the last 4 or 5 years, from participating in classes and coming to speak, to co-authoring a research paper, to co-producing an event. So we just have a tremendous amount of respect for the program and the program leadership, as well as the graduates coming out of the program. We have some Comely graduates that work at We now and have had some over the years. So always delight in getting a chance to connect with all of you. I'm gonna start and just give a basic overview of who we are as an agency and highlight a recent work sample that the local team did that we're all really excited about. And then I'm going to ask 6 of our colleagues to turn on their cameras and do a little panel discussion so you can hear from some of the folks that work in the different pieces of our business. And then after that, we'll open up some breakout rooms and you can pop around and ask questions and connect with people as well. So who is We Communications? The thing that really unifies us across every region, across every part of our business, is the notion of transformative storytelling. And what we mean by that is we're an agency that doesn't believe that it's enough just to drive good media coverage or to create really beautiful stories and content. We want to transform people's perceptions, and we build communication programs that are designed to motivate people to shift behaviors and change minds. We are proudly female founded and female owned. The picture on the left of the screen there is our 2 founders, Pam and Melissa. Pam passed in 2017, and Melissa is still very actively engaged as the CEO, managing the company, providing client counsel, and she's based right here in the Seattle market. So it's just wonderful to have such an inspirational leader and a globally recognized PR executive right here in our backyard. We are a very purpose-driven agency. Melissa, I was working with her on a speech a few years ago, and she showed me her business plan, and it says right in there, this is from the 80s, it says, put people and purpose above profit.
Not fair. And especially,
thanks to whoever went on mute. So right in our business plan, people and purpose over profit. And in a way, we feel like the world has kind of caught up to her philosophy as we start to really understand more the audiences are demanding that companies stand up and have a voice on issues that them and their employee bases care about, and that it's important not to just talk about your products and services, but the impact that those products and services have on the world. Those are the types of stories we love to tell. As you're probably acutely aware of, the media ecosystem is changing at a really, really rapid pace. And one of the things that really sets We apart is our ability to understand the media ecosystem, build relationships with those pockets of influence and third-party validation that can help our clients get their story out there. We are one of the largest independent communication and marketing agencies in the world, and that independence piece is really important. I've worked at holding company agencies and had holding company agencies support me, and certainly there's very good work that comes out of those organizations. But at the end of the day, their #1 priority is reporting earnings to the street. And so one of the things that drew me to We Communications is the fact that we've got this big, robust global network, and we can do really advanced communication work, but we can put our people and our clients first. And that's really the way we've structured our network across the globe, is either through local growth or acquisition of other independent companies that share that same mindset. The obligatory logo parade, as I like to call it, this is a snapshot of some of the clients we work with currently in North America. And one thing you'll probably notice on here is there's some big globally recognized brands like McDonald's and Lego and Microsoft, and also probably some brands that you haven't heard of. And that again comes from our independent status, means we don't have to say, hey, we can only support big brands that have $50,000 a month to spend. We can really go where the story is. And I like to say we sort by story, and we want to work with companies that are using technology to make a positive impact in the world. And we do that in 3 primary sectors: tech, consumer, and healthcare. We very much believe that today everyone has a technology story to tell. So even for the McDonald's and the Lego, as we've taken on business with those companies, it's because they are starting to realize that they are using technology to improve the customer experience. And so really tech at the core of what we believe at We, but lots of work in the tech, consumer, and healthcare sectors. I want to share a recent work sample. We have had the opportunity locally to work with the Seattle Kraken in Climate Pledge Arena. We're essentially helping with everything outside of the game of hockey. So how they show up in the community, the storytelling pillars we've built for them that we're working to drive stories around our tech and innovation, sustainability, and COVID safety. And I got to say, as a skeptical man by nature, it's been really inspiring to see how both the Climate Pledge Arena organization and the Kraken really have those things core to who they want to be as an organization. Those things, as well as diversity and inclusion, are just how they're building their organization, from practice facility to how things show up in the stadium. And these pictures that I'm sharing are from an all-day shoot we did on site at the facility with Ben Tracy, who is CBS News National Environmental Correspondent. And this was just such an amazing day for our team. We helped them carve out story angles around 4 specific things. One is rain to rink. And this apparently is the first facility that has ever been able to take recycled rainwater and use that for the ice on the rink. The NHL has very specific guidelines around how the ice needs to be. And so it took a lot of doing, but it's the first NHL arena that is using recycled rainwater for the ice. Another one was around renewable energy. So the facility is outlined with solar panels, and they're I think 97% renewable energy. They've also gotten to zero waste status and are using 75% locally sourced ingredients, and have a really robust transportation program to try to make it easy for people to get to the stadium using public transit. So this was just a really inspiring story for our team to work on. It ended up being a 6-minute story, which for national news is a very long piece. They did a great job bringing all those storylines to life. They did a nice job of connecting it back to the history around Seattle Center and sort of how that started with the World's Fair, I think in the 70s. So I'll drop the link into the chat a little bit later, but this is just an example of some work done right here locally out of our Seattle office recently that just told this really powerful story that everyone can get excited about. And then before I ask some of my colleagues to flip on their cameras, I just wanted to kind of orient you on some of our areas of expertise. The folks that you'll hear from today represent a lot of these different communication skills and disciplines. Insights and analytics. Jeffrey Sadari is here today to talk about our insights and analytics part of our business. Brand and creative development. Corporate reputation and brand purpose has been a part of our business that's really grown a lot over the last few years, as more and more companies are looking for help in telling the story of what their brand means, what it stands for, and the impact they're having on the world. Thought leadership and executive communication. Employee engagement. which is another part of our business that has really grown in the last couple years. I think at the start of the pandemic, every organization in the world realized that employees have always been, but even more so than now, are their most important audience. Influence and storytelling, tech and product communications, and issues and crisis management. Those are kind of our 8 core areas of expertise at We Communications. So with that, I'm going to ask the 6 colleagues that have joined me today to flip on their cameras. And I'm going to stop sharing. All right, so with me, I'm gonna start with Amalia. Amalia, why don't you tell folks who you are and what you do at We?
Hi, I'm Amalia, she, her pronouns. I am currently an account executive here at the agency. I just actually joined the Intel consumer account and I'm doing corp comms. I'll be talking about starting your career at We and just what onboarding looks like. Also, I have been I was a part of the internship program. So if you have any questions about that, I also am still really active with working with our interns as well.
Thanks, Amalia. And Jeffrey. Jeffrey,
everybody.
The man with the data.
My name is Jeffrey Sideri. I'm the Senior Vice President of Data and Analytics. In North America, I head up a team of about 40 people working across all of our clients, building pretty amazing insights around what's happening with the conversation of our brands, their competition, influencers in both the journalist space or the social media, digital video space. So we monitor the conversation globally in lots of languages and looking for trends and insights to help our strategy, our account teams and creative teams build great strategy. So we're a very fast growing team. And so if you want to learn more about the work we're doing, please come and chat.
This part of our business has really, like Jeffrey said, grown and expanded a ton over the last 4 or 5 years. We've always been really strong, I think, at measuring our results, quantifying the impact of the coverage, the social engagement we drive, and how that ties to business results, but have really grown leaps and bounds as far as on the front end, understanding audiences, bringing insights that can lead to really good communication strategy. Let's now hear from Julia. Hi, Julia.
Hi, everyone. My name is Julia Pileski, she, her pronouns. I work for We in the DXT space, which is the digital experience technology team, and I'm a senior project manager on that team. I work primarily on our Microsoft account, which is a pretty big one, but our team is full of creative leads, designers, writers, copywriters, channel strategists, and we work hand in hand with Jeffrey's team. And as a project manager, I do a lot of resourcing, assigning folks to projects, being on a project from start to finish, budget management, all of the nitty gritty. So if you're interested in any of that, or just want to learn a little bit more about our social and content and creative teams, that's what my room will be about. So.
Thanks, Julia. Kirsty.
Hi, my name's Kirsty Johnson, and I am a vice president on the Microsoft account. I focus specifically on cybersecurity and privacy. And I have been at the agency for about 19 years, and all 19 of those years, I have worked on the Microsoft account. So I've had a chance to really see a lot of different pieces of the business, really sort of see how Microsoft's story and narrative has really evolved over the last, almost 2 decades. And so a lot of the work that I do now and a lot of the work that we at the agency do on the account side of things to support Microsoft is really designed to help really tell their story at a thought leadership level. So there's a lot of products and news and announcements that come out of Microsoft. Obviously, it's the biggest global technology vendor, but I think the sort of most interesting part of the work that we do here at We is really as storytellers for a major corporation like Microsoft, and really how do we tell that story against the backdrop of everything that's happening in the external landscape, and particularly for cybersecurity and privacy that can get real sticky real quick. So my room, my breakout room will be really focused on Microsoft and what it's like really working with a client like Microsoft and helping tell their story.
Thanks. And for those that don't know, Pam and Melissa are founders who you saw on one of the previous slides. They were Bill Gates' first two PR people, and we have been the agency of record for Microsoft that entire time. And I would just say that the work that we do for and with Microsoft is the highest caliber communications work in the world, full stop. Okay, who have I not gotten to? Lindsay, let's talk consumer. Hi.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Cameron. I am an account director on the We Consumer team. I've been at the agency for about 3 years now. We on the consumer team really focus on telling big, bold stories for our consumer lifestyle brands. So consumer versus corporate, what is that? At a high level, it's telling stories that speak to the person at home in their everyday life directly in a way that really resonates with them and matters. My everyday, I am a director on the Microsoft account, working specifically on their future of work team, which, as I'm sure you can imagine, has been very busy the last 18 months. Everything is all about the future of work all the time. And our job is to really help Microsoft determine how they can marry policy and product to really help business leaders help their employees. So my breakout room will focus on two things. How the consumer team really tells bold stories for consumer brands like McDonald's, Lego, Chateau Ste. Michelle, Roomba, or iRobot, which is maker of Roomba, and more. And then how we really are shaping the hybrid thought leadership for Microsoft.
Thank you, Lindsay. And then I got to give big ups to Natalie for the UW logo there behind you. Before Natalie goes, I should just mention that Microsoft, as our biggest client, currently right now represents about 40% of our business. And over the last 5 years, part of our 5-year growth strategy was how do we grow around Microsoft? And we've done a great job doing that. That growth has come a lot in the consumer sector that Lindsay spoke about. We're starting to really get some traction in our healthcare sector, but a lot of that growth has come for other technology clients, and that's the world that Natalie currently sits in.
I have to unmute. Hi, everyone. So as Matt said, my name is Natalie Lieblich. So I would just like to say I am a proud UW alumni. So go Huskies. I have a degree in theater communications and then a minor in Spanish because I just couldn't decide what to focus on. And this tells you how old I am because I was at the UW when they still had speech communications as an option, which they don't have anymore. And then you guys, I'm sorry, plug your ears. I'm also a Ducks alumni, so I got my master's from University of Oregon. So last weekend was a big weekend in the Lieblich household because I like to say I couldn't lose no matter the outcome of the game. And I have been here at We for 16 years, so not quite as long as Kirsty, but quite a while. And what I love is that I feel like because of our foundation in technology, I am a part of like the most important conversations happening in the world around us, right? Like technology is transforming everything. And it's really fun to feel like we have a pulse on that. So the work that we do in the tech practice, we have lots of those logos that Matt showed you before. A lot of those are tech clients, but specifically, in the time that I've been here, I've done everything from traditional media relations with Microsoft to, embedded social content with Verizon Business to driving industry vertical coverage, so manufacturing, automotive, healthcare, etc. And my favorite job right now, which is I am a VP and I help lead the Intel business that we have. So Intel came on board couple years ago. And we've really been working to grow that business organically. And it's super fun, super exciting. And to echo some of what Tristy was saying, really at the highest level, what we're working on is storytelling and corporate storytelling. And how do we use all of the different levers we have from communications to tell the highest level story that a company like Intel has to tell? How do you help audiences, whether those are technology audiences, business, employee, go from where we currently are to where we want to be in the next 18, 24, 36 months, and then see that progress and that path that we take. And so Tristy has really been a part of seeing how Microsoft has done that transformation. And we are working with Intel sort of in the infancy stages on how do we as a company do that transformation with our story, and where does it go from here? So ask me in my breakout group, executive communications, sort of 360 storytelling, corporate narrative work, the shifting influence landscape, right? So there's so many more people than just, media relations at this point. All of those different things are things that I've worked on.
Thank you, Natalie. We're doing great on time, so I just got to tell a story about Intel as well. And it's been a really inspiring account for us to take on. The process it took for us to compete for this business, to demonstrate to Intel why we were the right agency to help them with that transformation story that they've embarked on, took, I think, about 9 or 10 months, if I remember correctly, Natalie, which is something we're seeing more of, is longer cycles for companies to choose their agency. That time period stretched across the pandemic. And I remember as the team was gearing up to go pitch, we had one of our colleagues fly in from Germany. And after he got here, things changed enough on public health guidance that he could not go to the room at Intel and pitch. So he was at a hotel nearby.
That's right. So literally the day, so you go through this whole, those of you who have been doing communications, you go through this whole RFP process, months and months and rounds, and we're final round, we're down to 3 agencies. We're finally all going down to the room together. We do all of our preps, all of these things. And then the corporate Intel guidelines changed, and our colleague from Germany, because he had traveled international, was not able to be in the office because the next day after our pitch, they shut down. And that was the start of the pandemic. So we have really been a case study in how do you build client relationships without ever having seen anyone in person before. Not the team that works on it at not the clients, like everything has been done via video, hands off, shoulder bumps, because hello, welcome to COVID.
Right. It was amazing to see how the team flexed and dealt with all of that uncertainty throughout the process. The other piece of this story I want to share kind of ties back to what I was saying earlier around putting people before profit. And I can remember vividly standing in our office with Melissa, our CEO, and this was probably, April or May of 2020. And we knew we were one of 3 finalists for Intel. We didn't know if we had won. And we were starting to see other agencies announce how they had to let go of 15% of their workforce, whatever that immediate impact, financial impact of the pandemic was. And Melissa telling me, on Friday, I'm going to announce that we will not lose any positions because of a direct result of the pandemic. And I remember saying to her, wow, that's amazing that we can do that. How wonderful. Don't you want to wait and see if we won Intel first, right? Large account, bunch of business would help sort of fill in that gap. And she said, absolutely not. This decision isn't based on whether or not we win Intel or how much revenue coming in. It's based on our ability to put our people first. And so to then 3 days later to find out we won the account and have it just be off and running has been a really inspiring thing for our business over the last couple of years.
Matt, I would even add on to what you're saying, which is like, absolutely. And I remember back in 2008 when the exact same decision was made, right? Like during that 2008 crisis, when everything, the .com bust, all of these different things, and agencies were like, we're just going to have to let go of 25% because we don't know what's happening. And they made that same decision then. And to me, that really speaks to the fact that this isn't a one-off choice. It is something that has been going on for, 15 years.
Well said. All right, so the other thing I asked everybody to do, now that you got a sense for kind of the type of work we do and the type of clients we support, is to share something that is really exciting for them about working with We, whether it is a recent client project they got to work on, something that we've done as a company or an organization, to give you a sense a little bit for what it feels like to be part of our culture. And let's start back at the beginning. Amalia.
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind is the We People Power campaign, which is one of our more recent campaigns that was released actually a couple of months ago. And that is really focusing on the agency and the people at the agency specifically. We can definitely link below a little bit later what that looks like, but it's just folks that are currently in our offices doing the work, working with our clients, and how we feel the agency has been doing with taking care of us, and how we are cultivating a culture of progression, not perfection, and understanding that there's going to be things and hiccups that happen. But like everyone else has been saying, and just to echo that much more, that We really does put their people first. So if you want to chat more about that in my session, as well as the internship program, like I said, we are really integrated with new hires and really want to hear what our fresh faces are saying and bringing into the agency, because we need to keep on growing as people and as teams and just overall. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
What a great thing to reference. And I hadn't thought about that, Amalia, but that really is an example of, even, in a professional service business, what you're selling is your people, and them as counselors and consultants. In the campaign Amalia is describing is really putting the people first for our own storytelling about our agency and what are they passionate about and what are the good things that they're doing out there in the world. Thank you. Jeffrey.
Hi. I missed the question. What you asked.
What's exciting in your world lately, Jeffrey?
Oh, so there's lots of exciting things. So what I spend a lot of time in focusing on understanding the data and technology that's available globally to track the conversation, whether it's here in North America, Latin America, Europe, Asia, China. And one of the exciting things around the PR communication space is that the data and the technology that's available to monitor this conversation across so many different channels and mediums is just getting better by the year. When I took over this role or joined We about 5 years ago, it was in a different place, and now the exciting things that we get to do for global brands to measure conversations in 30, 40 different languages in dozens of countries, bring that back to understand how the conversation is landing, not only in the country that their headquarters are in, but understanding how are the communications working in the different markets, who's leading, who are the influencers in those markets, what do the audiences look like in those markets. And one of the new exciting areas is, how do you take this communication data and connect it to marketing? So where can you bring information to the marketing team to impact the top of the funnel in ways that can help them with their media buying plan or their direct engagement or content planning? So it's a really exciting time. I look at new tools every day, and there's lots of investment in this space around artificial intelligence and data connectivity. So the exciting thing about my job is where the technology is going to help the dozens of clients that we have that rely on data on a daily basis.
I think the work y'all have done around global measurement is, worth commenting on again. I can tell you that in a previous life, I supported HP for 5 or 6 years, another big, huge global brand. And we spent 2 years trying to figure out how do we measure across the globe in a way that provides consistency and insight, but also takes into account the different media environments, the different tools they have different places. And we never quite got there. And I know we've been able to bring that functionality to a couple of our big clients recently. So hats off. You're on mute.
Sorry, one of the exciting things I tell people internally, I have lots of conversations with the head of analytics at other big PR firms because we talk about the tools, what do you like, what you don't like. And really what I learn is that our agency is world-class. The analytics work we do, the communication work, the planning strategy, but when it comes to data analysis, the work we do is at parity with any other agency's analytic team. You just don't hear a lot about it because we're spending a lot of time doing the work right now. We're not really talking about it. But what I promote internally and externally when people want to listen is that the data and analysis we're building are helping to drive world-class comms programs. And there's very few agencies that do some of the stuff we do. I would say like 5, maybe 6 in the world that look at data the way we do. And there's very few agencies that have it integrated the way we do across the team. So it's interesting. And that's why I love my job, and the agency. So
Love it. Thanks, Jeffrey. I love that picture you just painted. I've got this vision of you and a bunch of other data nerds on a Zoom bridge late at night with a drink talking about Talkwalker and Muckrack and artificial intelligence.
basically, yeah,
Right on.
it. Thanks.
How about you, Julia?
Yeah, well, Matt heard me talk about this work in person yesterday, which is a rare thing these days, but we did have a small office gathering. And so I did get to mention, but the main project that I'm on right now is some influencer work for our Microsoft Store client, and influencer work in general. Now that I'm in it and now that I'm noticing it more, I mean, I do it too. I'm like, oh, this person I follow on Instagram is using this product. Well, I think I'm going to have to try it. And just that word of mouth and the marketing that's coming from peers and people that you follow on the internet is, I think now we're finally realizing that it is a huge market and opportunity. And so being part of shaping that with Microsoft and specifically Microsoft Store, which has, I think, a very unique and like humanizing element to it. We do a lot of trainings. There's a lot of opportunities beyond just like, okay, I bought this Surface product from Microsoft, and being able to kind of shape and grow a program like that has been really interesting. And also kind of seeing the appreciation that Microsoft has for working with, especially like up and coming Gen Z creators. They're putting a huge emphasis on that. And in terms of storytelling, it's like, these are the voices that I want to hear from. And it's great to see that reflected in the brand's opportunity as well. And we're seeing more and more kind of, pitches and opportunities come through in separate items of our business for influencer programs. So it's just interesting to see that work starting to pick up as I'm helping to build out this program, which is interesting. And we're just coming off of a bit of a kind of smaller 2-day event that was done in New York at the Microsoft Store there. And we hosted a live stream from that. We're big into the social commerce aspect and integration on Facebook and Instagram right now for Microsoft. So lots of very exciting things happening both with this program and then also in the like digital and social space in general. So that is some stuff that has been really, really interesting to me. I spend probably too much time on TikTok, but if you want to chat about that, that's the room for you. So.
No such thing. I've got 15 and 17-year-old daughters, so that means I'm on TikTok a lot as well.
It was fascinating.
Yeah. The thing I love about that, Julia, is, I mentioned earlier how our expertise in tech and how to tell tech stories and work with tech media has been such a boon for our consumer business. with this, it's kind of the opposite, where we've done influencer work for McDonald's or Lego or even Brother. And what we've learned there, we're able to bring over to, you know, our tech clients who obviously are trying to speak directly to buyers and consumers as well. So thank you for sharing that. Cheers, Steve.
Hi, yeah. The biggest thing I think for me that I was reflecting on when Matt asked us to think about this is, so about this time last year, there was a massive global cybersecurity attack. It was made mainstream headlines. It was called the SolarWinds attack, is what a lot of people knew it as. And, you know, the reason that this stood out for me was for a couple of reasons. I think number one was like this kind of an attack at this scale only happens every few years, right? This is not something that our team deals with on a day-to-day basis. And so that in and of itself meant that there was really high stakes for Microsoft, who had a lot of customers that were affected, although they were not the source of the attack. It was a global, you know, attack by Russian nation state actors. They had infiltrated our government and had been in there for a long time. And so it was a really high stakes moment for us as a team. And I think, you know, what was really sort of stood out for me is that it really stretched the muscles that our team had to bring to bear to really manage not just the Microsoft narrative, but the Microsoft brand in this moment, right? How do you really get in there and, you know, minimize the damage to a brand like Microsoft when they are stuck right in the middle of this massive news cycle that is really, really sticky. And so, you know, that on top of how do you really balance that with getting some really great proactive stories out there about how Microsoft is protecting its customers? You know, what is it doing to protect customers? What are the people on the front lines at Microsoft doing to really understand these threats and get ahead of that? And so it was just, I mean, it was crazy days, let's be clear. It was really hectic and really crazy days. I mean, myself and the majority of my team and other teams at Microsoft are on the phone all day with the New York Times, the Washington Post. I mean, it was nonstop, back to back for months. And so, but that said, those are the moments, especially on the Microsoft account, that really test your muscles and your skills. It's not just about sending a blog or sending a press release or sending a mail that gives all the information. You really have to get on the phone and work the story. And our teams did a phenomenal job. I mean, we learned a ton, but we also all, you know, there was a lot of different teams involved. And so our ability on the agency side to really come together and integrate for Microsoft to make sure we're telling a really integrated story for the company. It was just a super fascinating case study. And so if you want to learn more about that, we can talk about that. On the flip side of that, the other thing that it really tested was, you know, it really tested the bounds of our team culture, right? This was really the first major incident that our team had, you know, especially at the scale, had to manage during the pandemic when we're all working remotely. I mean, we're really used to being in a room together. We've got whiteboards, we're shouting at each other. And, you know, we really had to sort of change the way we operate while also maintaining that team culture. Which for us is super important because we work in a really fast-paced piece of the Microsoft business. And so we came out stronger because of it. But that also was sort of just a fascinating case study on like, how does the agency surround and support in those moments? How do you really make sure that people aren't burning out, despite the fact that all we're doing is like sitting in our pajamas in front of our computer all day? How do you still maintain those personal connections so people feel supported? And so it was really interesting to me from both of those sides of the coin.
So cool. And like, I think you mentioned early, like how just inspiring it is to work on like global stories like that are, you know, literally impacting our world in such a big way. And that's, I feel like every day on the Microsoft account, y'all are getting to do that. Hey, before I tee up Lindsay, I just want to acknowledge that some folks are direct messaging me. I'm trying to keep up, but if I miss it, I will respond to those kind of when we break a little bit later. Lindsay.
Yeah, I kept nodding my head as Kirsty was talking because yep, that's my world too. My world too. It's the pace and the stakes on the Microsoft account, as well as a lot of the other accounts the teams have discussed over the last 30 minutes. It's really high stakes and it's really important work. So, and it just feels good to have to be working on businesses where you have impact and value, and that's kind of what's kept me at We for 3 years, working on the future of work team for Microsoft. Really over the last 2 years specifically, has been one of those once in a lifetime opportunities, helping the world's biggest productivity company think about shape and action on how they guide customers and business leaders and therefore employees through this uncharted territory. And one of the kind of seminal moments that my team has led was the release of the first annual Work Trend Index, which was a compilation of research in March of last year. It was a survey executed by a partner agency that touched 30,000 people across 31 countries, and trillions of productivity signals, which is basically how people interact or how customers on Microsoft 365 channels are interacting, totally respecting privacy throughout, across Outlook, Teams, chats, how many meetings are happening after hours in this new world, how many chat meetings are ad hoc, how many meetings are scheduled, and what do all of these things tell us, alongside brain research, looking at how the impact of back-to-back meetings on our days. How does all of these different actions of research inform us about how work is changing? And with that, we had some really kind of compelling findings that shaped how we as an agency guided our clients, as well as how our clients guided their bosses, all the way up to Satya, the Microsoft CEO, and how he is therefore guiding other CEOs to determine how to help their employees throughout this new path of work. We told some really compelling stories that really permeated the media landscape. Some of them I'm sure that you have seen. We found that 40% of employees over last year were planning to leave their job. We found that there was this massive disconnect between employees and employers that has since, I think we have all seen in the media now, where employers want more work, employees just want time for themselves. And we kind of looked to those pain points and said, business leaders, this is what you need to care about, or your people are going to be out the door. And we are now seeing that play out. And so with this great resignation, and so we and our clients through this work were kind of some of the first, we told one of the first communication strategies that really foreshadowed this great resignation. And that's just been really, really impactful. And of course, we are now in the throes of determining what our next report will be about. And our clients really see us as partners in this, which is really valuable in and of itself, because we're in it with them, and that makes it all the more exciting every day.
I love that how Microsoft approached that. And it wasn't just like, hey, work is changing, here's some products we can sell you. It was here as what we're hearing from our employees. Here's what we're hearing from our customers and partners. Here's what we're learning and applying to our own business. And here's all of that for others to consider as we go through this together. I told Lindsay this story, I think yesterday when we were chatting, is that earlier this year, I started on a research project with one of our researchers for our president of North America, as we think ourselves about how are we going to keep employees connected and create those meaningful communities in a hybrid world. And we dove in and started doing research, and all the best stuff pointed us to Microsoft. So just really, again, inspiring work to get to be a part of. Thank you, Lindsay. All right, Natalie.
So my uncle lives in Idaho, like belt buckle, cowboy boots, like full on red-blooded American, like has his own small business. And I was visiting him this summer, and he said, Natalie, I don't understand why the US isn't making chips and China is making them instead. What happened? And I had this like aha moment where I was like, since when does he care about silicon and chips and like production and geopolitics of US versus China relations? And it was just this great moment of like, wow, I get to work on really cool things and understand like the conversation that's happening at a scale that not a lot of people get the opportunity to be a part of. And I think when you look at like what Kirsty was talking about with the SolarWinds stuff, right? Like that was all over the news. When you think about the future of work and the great resignation stuff that Lindsay was talking about, again, like these topics are things that are just out in our culture and we get the opportunity to work on those. So I would say, first of all, that was the ability to work on topics that are so impactful to everybody on this call, regardless of the industry you're a part of, is amazing. And I would just also like to circle back to what Jeffrey was saying, which is one of the biggest things that we have seen on the Intel account is there are not a lot of times where you have marketing coming to the communications team saying, what you're doing with data is really great. We would like to have some of that. And what Jeffrey and his team have managed to do on the Intel side with being able to measure the impact, being able to measure the ROI, being able to take the communications efforts that the team is working on and then measure year over year over year, quarter over quarter. Did this announcement push us forward in our narrative the way we wanted it to? Did this announcement help us or hurt us as far as the global impact of this thing goes? It's really impactful to be able to have marketing coming to you to say, we like what you're doing with the data. We want some of that also. Because normally marketing is like, comms, how do we show your value? We don't really know. Just go tell a story. So I'd say those are two examples of the like really cool stuff that I've worked on lately.
I love that. I hadn't heard that, Natalie. And yeah, historically, that's not something that happens a lot, right? It's like, oh, you PR in your little stories, but
yeah,
us for data. That's fantastic. Okay, I want to make sure we leave plenty of time for people to ask questions in breakout rooms. So thank you to all 6 of my colleagues for sharing your work and your passion. Before we open up the breakout rooms, I want to introduce you to our fabulous talent acquisition team. They are the folks that know exactly what the open roles we have currently right now, which are many. We've been fortunate to have a good amount of growth over our last fiscal year. So we have a number of open roles, and I'm going to put them on the spot here and say the other thing I love about our talent acquisition team is I can't tell you how many times I've talked to somebody who is not sure what they want to do next, but has some sort of experience within comms or marketing. And I always just say, get on the phone with Tori and do an informational interview, because they're really good at helping people understand what skills they have and match those skills and passion to what the right career fit would be for them. So Jess, I'm going to pass to you and let you introduce yourself and your team.
Thanks, Matt. So hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Burgess. I'm actually local here in the Seattle area, floating around like everyone is with all the waterfall that we have going on right now. We're actually a team of 6. So we are kind of a lean and scrappy team right now. We are aggressively adding to our talent acquisition team. Right now, we do have 83 open roles here across North America. So when you do join us in our breakout room, there are tons of opportunities. And even if we don't have an open opportunity right now, we know that we will have opportunities in the near future for other positions. Right now, I do have 2 of our recruiters with us. We have Tori Quinn, who's actually in Portland. So she's just as wet, but not as wet as here in Seattle. And then Chrissy Siemens is here with us as well. Chrissy's here actually local in the Seattle area. And then I do have 3 other team members that were not able to join tonight, but nonetheless, we'll give you guys all a flyer, who we are, what our email addresses are, all of our connection pieces. And then our intent is that we will connect with each and every one of you offline, so where we can really take a deep dive into you, your background, open opportunities and then go from there.